وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحيم اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها وعافية الأبدان وشفائها ونور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم الله رب محمد صلى عليه وسلم نحن عباد محمد صلى عليه وسلم. All praises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator, our sustainer, our master, our Lord, and may peace and blessings and salutations be upon the best of creation, the perfect of creation and the purpose of creation, Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sahbihi wa barik wa sallim. Inshallah al-Aziz, we have started this our weekly session regarding fiqh, in which we will be covering the basics a Muslim, every single Muslim must know. Inshallah al-Aziz, last week we started with introduction to fiqh. Today we will go through the different types of water. So we have started Kitab al-Tahara, and we mentioned last week that Inshallah al-Aziz, the text which we will be following will be Nur al-Idah. So this is a primary text within the Hanafi fiqh, and the students of knowledge, especially those who study the traditional Dars al-Nizami, the first fiqh book they learn and they go through is Nur al-Idah. And I mentioned last week that this is a book which is not only for the ulama, but a general Muslim must also go through this book, learn this book. Why? Because in it are masail which every Muslim should know. So we'll start with water. So صاحب نور الإضاءة, the author of Nur al-Idah, he mentions المياه التي يجوز التطهير بها سبعة. He says that waters through which you can gain purity are of 7 types. And then they mention, and he says ماء السماء, the first type of water is the rainwater. Then he says وماء البحر, and then sea water. وماء النهر, water from the river. وماء البئر, and then water from the well. وَمَاءُ ذَابَ مِنَ الثَّلْجِ, water which is melted from snow. وَالْبَرْدِ, water which is melted from ice. وَمَاءُ الْعَيْنِ, and spring water. Meaning that these are 7 types of water which he mentions that we can consume these, and through these we can gain purity. So if a person uses rainwater, likewise seawater, or water from the river, or water from the well, or water which is melted from snow, or water which is melted from ice, or water from the spring, all these forms of water are perfectly fine, and a person can use them in order to perform wudu or in order to perform ghusl, and he can also drink them as well. Then he mentions now, he says al-miyahu, and he says that waters ala khamsati aqsamin are of 5 types. So in regards to gaining purity from water, or whether we can't gain purity from water, water is of 5 types. Yes, so now if a person, whether if he's allowed to use that water to perform wudu, or if he's allowed to use that water to perform ghusl, so now Sahib Nur al-Idah, the author of Nur al-Idah, he says that water is of how many types? 5 types in regards to whether we can use that water or not. And then he mentions the first type, he says water which is tahir, mutahhir, ghayr makruh. So water, tahir means pure. So the water is pure itself, that's the first type. So the water is pure itself, mutahhir, and then the water also is a source of gaining purity, so it also purifies. And then ghayr makruh. Makruh means disliked, and ghayr makruh means that it is not disliked. Of course, you will understand this better when we go through the next types, because you'll find water which is tahir, meaning pure, but ghayr mutahhir, but it doesn't give purity. Likewise, you'll find water which is tahir, pure, tahir, it gives purity as well, but it's makruh. So now the first type of water is water which is pure itself, and it gives purity as well, and it's not disliked to use water as well. So there's example for that is وَهُوَ الْمَاءُ الْمُطْلَقِ, that is the general water, meaning the 7 types we mentioned, ماء السماء, the rainwater, or ماء النهر, water from the sea, ماء البحر, water from the sea, ماء النهر, water from the river, likewise ماء البئر, water from the well, and then water which is melted from snow and ice, and water which is from the springs. So this is ma'ul mutlaq, general water. So now water which is tahir, it's pure itself. Mutahhir, it gives purity. And then it's ghayr makruh, meaning that it's not disliked to use its water. So this is the first type of water. So this is a general water, and we can use this in order to perform wudu, and we are allowed to use this to perform ghusl. Then the second type of water is tahirun, which is tahir, water which is mutahhir, meaning it gives purity as well, but makruhun is makruh. So the first type was water which is tahir, pure itself, mutahhir, it gives purity, and ghayr makruh, meaning that it is not disliked to use that water. Now the second type is water which is tahir, pure, mutahhir, it gives purity as well, but it's makruh, meaning it is disliked to use this water to perform wudu or to perform ghusl. And then what is the example of this? They say that وَهُوَ مَا شَرِبَ مِنْهُ الْحِرَّةُ, that is that water which from which a cat or anything which is like a cat, the size of a cat, have drank from. Meaning that, of course, we'll find nowadays people, they will have cats at home as pets and so forth. Now, if they have drunk from a water, can you use that to perform wudu? You can perform wudu with that water, but it's better to use water which they have not drunk from. Why? Because that is ghayr makruh, that is not disliked, and this is disliked. Then they mention the next type. So the first two types have been mentioned. The third type is the water which is tahir, meaning it's pure itself. Ghayr mutahhir, water which does not give purity. So the first type was water which is pure itself, it gives purity, and it's ghayr makruh, it's not disliked. So general water. Then the second type was water which is pure itself, it gives purity, but it is makruh to use that water. Yeah. Now the third type is that water, it's clean itself, through essence it's clean and pure, but you cannot gain purity from it. And they give the example. They say that is that water استعمل لرفع حدث. So it is that water which is used to perform wudu, for instance. Yeah, whether that wudu was performed in order because a person was not in a state of wudu to come into the state of wudu, or a person used that he was in the state of wudu, but he used it again, he performed wudu again upon wudu so that he can gain closer to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Likewise, it is mustahab to perform fresh wudu for each salah. So of course, a person to perform wudu is not a condition that he has to be not in a state of wudu. No, that's not the case. So now, anyhow, a person performs wudu, and now the water which is left over, meaning that you washed your face and water gathered in a utensil which has touched your face and your arm. Now that water in its essence is clean and pure. It's clean and pure, but you cannot gain purity from that water. So you cannot use that water to perform wudu. Yes? Now there's a question here, that when does the water become musta'mal, used water? So the term used for this water is musta'mal. It would mean used water. So now, when does water become musta'mal? Because of course this objection, this question that you're saying that if water touches my face, then that water cannot be used again to purify myself. But now what does it mean by musta'mal water? Because of course, does it mean that as soon as it touches the body it becomes musta'mal? Or when does it become musta'mal? So they explain and they say وَيَصِيرُ الْمَاءُ مُسْتَعْمَلًا بِمُجَرَّدِ انفصاله عن الجسد, that the water becomes musta'mal when بِمُجَرَّدِ انفصاله عن الجسد, as soon as it leaves the body, is separated from the jasad, the skin. So meaning that a person, when he's performing wudu and he placed water on his forehead, now when he placed water on his forehead, the water came down onto his cheeks, that's perfectly fine. Why? Because he has not left the skin of the body. But as soon as the water leaves the skin and the body, then that is the time when it becomes musta'mal. So water does not become musta'mal by just touching the body, but as soon as it is separated from the body. So now this was the third type of water. So the first type of water is water which is pure itself, through which we can perform wudu or not. So we are going through the 5 types of waters through whether we can gain purity or not. So the first type was tahir, pure water. Mutahhir, it gives you purity, and it's ghayr makruh, it's not disliked to use that water. So that is perfectly fine, and you can use that water to perform wudu and ghusl. Then the second type was that water which is tahir, yes, it's pure. Mutahhir, yes, it gives purity, but its makruh is disliked. So again, it can be used to gain purity. You can perform wudu with that, you can perform ghusl with that, but that is disliked. And then the next, third type is now tahir. It's pure itself, but it's غير مطهر, meaning you cannot gain purity from it. Yes, that is al-ma'u al-musta'mal. Yes, the water which you use to perform wudu. So again, the water is clean itself, but you cannot use it to gain purity. Then the next type of water they mention is والرابع, the fourth type is ma'un najisun, water which is najis, meaning impure water. Yes, a water which is not pure. And then they say that what is this water? So in it, this najasa, they say وَهُوَ الَّذِي حَلَّتْ فِيهِ نَجَاسَةٌ. This water is that water in which you find filth. You find filth or anything which is impure. So now the question here would be that what if the water, what is the quantity of water which we look into? Meaning that if you see a bucket of water and you see some filth in it, so can I use that or not? Or if I see, for example, a massive, enormous lake and I see some impurity in one corner of it, yes, can I use that or not? So they say that if the water is still and it's less than 10 by 10, meaning that is mentioned by the fuqaha that 216 liters approximately. So if the water is that much or less than that, and you see najasa in that, you see filth in that, you should not be using that to perform wudu. Yes, so that water should not be performed. So used to perform wudu. Yes, so if the water is less than 10 by 10, meaning that 216 liters approximately. Yes, so if a person finds that much water and there's najasa in it, he shouldn't be using that. Yes, if the water is flowing, so for instance, you see a stream or a river. Now the water is flowing and there's filth inside it. So how do you judge now whether I should be using that water or not? So the fuqaha have given us, they have mentioned that if you find any of these three qualities, then that water will be filtered. You cannot use it to perform wudu or ghusl. So what are those three qualities they mentioned? Ta'am. So if you find the taste of that filth, so if an animal has urinated in it, so if there's some sort of taste of that, or you see the color of that within the flowing water, or you see rihun, or if you could smell it, the filth. So if one of these three things is found, then that water is known as najis water, impure water, and you cannot use it in order to gain purity. So of course, if there is no other water which is around, then you perform tayammum in that case. So that was the fourth type of water which is impure. So you cannot use that in order to perform wudu. Then the fifth type is وَالْخَامِسُ مَاءٌ مَشْكُوكٌ, water which is mashkuk, doubtful water. Yes, and then they say that is that water مَا شَرِبَ مِنْهُ حِمَارٌ وَبَغْلٌ, meaning that this is that water from, you'll see that a donkey has drunk from, or a mule. Yes, so now the scholars obviously have, when we say ma'un mashkukun, doubtful water, it does not mean it means that the ulama have a difference of opinion in this. So some scholars, they would say that it's okay, and some scholars so now have categorized this as ma'un mashkukun. So this is doubtful water. So now this was the fifth type. So if you look at the first type of water, this is that water which is tahir. First type is tahir, mutahhir, ghayr makruh, meaning pure, it gives you purity and it's not disliked. So that is the best water to use to perform ghusl or to perform wudu. So that is general water, rain water, sea water, water from the river, water from the well, or water from the springs, or water which is melted from ice or snow. And then the second type was tahir, water which is pure. Tahir, it gives you purity but is makruh to use. Which water is that? Is that water from a cat or animal like that has drunk from? Yes, so if you have the first category or second category and the second category of water, of course you give priority to the first one. Yes, so that was the second. And the third type is water which is tahir, pure itself, but ghayr mutahhir, but it doesn't give you purity. So what is that water? That water is that water which you have used to perform wudu. So you used it and the water fell into a bucket and it's still there. It's pure and clean. Yes, but you cannot use it again the second time to clean and to purify yourself to perform wudu or ghusl. And then the fourth type is najis water, impure water. So again, this water is that water you cannot use So you'll find some sort of filth, for example, animal has urinated in it, or other filth uh, in the water. If obviously if the water is less and you can see the filth, when I say less than 260, 16 liters or less, or in Sharia they say 10 by 10, meaning 10 shar'i. So what you have when we say 10 by 10 is the arm length. So 10 arm lengths on each side. So, or 216 liters, better to understand. So if there's filth in that, or you see filth in it, you cannot use it. But if it's ma'un jari, flowing water, then you see three things. If it has taste, then you cannot use it. Or if you can smell the impurity, you cannot use it. Or if you can see the impurity. Yeah, so you can see the color of the impurity, then you cannot use that water. And then the fifth type is doubtful water. So doubtful water is that water from a mule or a donkey have drunk from. So now, what do you do when you see doubtful water? So you don't have any other water. You see, have ma'u mashkuk, you have such water from which a donkey or a mule has drunk from. Then what you do is that you use this water to perform wudu. At the same time, you perform tayammum. So of course, from these five categories, the best category is the first one. So if all these categories are there, and of course you must use the first category in order to perform wudu. Of course, if the first category is there, the water which is clean, it cleans you, and which is not snagged, then you use the second category, meaning that water which is clean, it cleans you but is makruh. If both of them ain't there, then of course you have the third type, fourth and fifth, then you use ma'un mashkuk. Yes, but the waters which you cannot use are najas, and the water which is tahir but ghair mutahhir. So of course, if these waters are there, then you should perform the substitute, which is tayammum. So these were the types of water, and the five types of water which Sahib Nur al-Idah has mentioned, the author of Nur al-Idah, whether regarding whether we can use it to perform wudu or not. So inshallah Aziz, next Wednesday we will go through the faraid of wudu, inshallah, and we'll understand and go through the benefits of wudu as well, inshallah, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to understand, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the ability to follow the way of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May Allah give us the ability to perform ibadah, worship Him in the best way possible. Ameen. Bijahi Nabi Amin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.